Good morning, Coach. Thanks for joining us. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, very good. Coach, if you could maybe just start us off here with an opening statement, then we'll take questions from there.
All right. First of all, welcome everyone. Day before the 4th of July. I hope everybody stays safe and has a happy 4th. I'll just say this, on June 16th, Chad Weiberg and I began a journey seeking answers for the multitude of questions being asked about our football program and Mike Gundy. Our only goal was to follow the truth wherever it led us and make the best decision or decisions for Oklahoma State University. No agenda, preconceived notions, selfish motives, or nod to public opinion. We listened to multiple current and former players and asked probing questions about their experiences. The more we listened, the more we learned, and a common theme began to emerge. This wasn't about a T-shirt. This was about a lot of things. We learned that all the players love and respect Rob Glass and our strength staff. It seemed to be counterintuitive that the most demanding person in the university would be university loved. Why? Because the players know that he cares about them. The same goes for Rod Johnson, a behind-the-scenes superstar on our staff. He knows every player, their families, and will do anything for them. He's a 24/7, 365-day-a-year ambassador for all that is good in society. We learned that our players love OSU. They love being on our football team. They love their teammates. There are a lot more positives about our program than negatives. Our players want to be great, and they're willing to make sacrifices. They are unselfish and loyal. Our coaches have done a great job of recruiting high-character young men. The missing link has been a more personal relationship with their head coach. They respect him as an excellent game day coach, but they want more coaching on a personal level. This crosses all racial lines. To a man, our players want a better connection to Mike Gundy. They view him as a difference maker, and they want him to help them grow as leaders. We conveyed this message to Coach Gundy, and his reaction has been everything that you would want. He has been humble, remorseful, and committed to change. As uncomfortable as the last 2 weeks have been, I believe this experience has changed Mike Gundy, and our players will be the beneficiaries. At the end of the journey, the decision was obvious. Mike Gundy is an excellent coach, and he's accomplished a lot in his 15-year career. However, the best is yet to come. That being said, I'll open it up for any questions that anyone may have.
Thanks, Coach. Our first question comes from Bill Haston of the Tulsa World. Go ahead, Bill. Bill, I think you may be on mute.
No, I'm sorry, Coach Holder. It was reported this morning by Brett McMurphy that Mike Gundy's contract has been adjusted and that his pay has been reduced. A, can you verify that? And if in fact that's true, B, is it a reaction more to the revenue disruption caused by the pandemic, or is it some sort of sanction perhaps in regard to this incident in June?
I can confirm that it's true. And I can also confirm that it has nothing to do with the pandemic. Those budget adjustments and salary cuts are in our future. I can't tell you what they're going to look like. Right now, we have no clue what's going to happen with our ability to play sports of any kind this coming year. And if we have revenue shortfalls, we'll make the appropriate adjustments when we have better information. The changes were offered up by Mike Gundy, and I commend him for that. It was his idea to take $1 million pay cut. You don't find that very often in the competitive world of college football. We made a few other changes to the contract at his suggestion, so I commend him for that. I think it really demonstrates his commitment to being a better coach, and he wanted to make a statement that assured all the players that this wasn't just about talk, this was more about action, and that's the first step.
Our next question comes from Barry Trammell of the Oklahoman. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, Mike, how I think on your original response to Chuba Hubbard's tweet was grave concern. How grave was your concern when you found out that the root of the problem was your coach just didn't have the proper relationship with his players? It seems like that's sort of a fundamental part of the job.
Well, you're 100% right. And I don't think it started out that way with Mike or any coach, but over time, things can change. The job gets bigger, responsibilities get bigger. And with that, you have more people to manage, more players on your team, and that can blur your priorities. So I think it's awakened him or alerted him to the fact that he wasn't as close to his players as he needed to be. He's going to change that. They really, when you think about it, on a university campus, your mission is to educate, and we're no different in athletics. We're just part of that mission to educate. The only difference is we get to pick our students, we get to recruit them. We're looking for the best and the brightest from all around the world. And not only we're just an augmentation to the education that's happening on the main campus, and we're more into leadership. And our athletes have the opportunity to not only get an education and learn how to better themselves as people out in the real world, but also they're going to learn about hard work, discipline, integrity, honesty. We're reinforcing these qualities, everything that speaks about what it takes to be a leader in society. And then also, I've always said that really a coach is about making dreams come true, teaching your players how to dream bigger than they ever imagined, give them the skills and the personal qualities necessary to make those dreams come true. And then they have all the advantages of an academic center. They get great information on strength and conditioning. We have nutritionists on staff. We have sports psychologists to help them with the everyday problems. So they're getting a kind of a whole body transformation while they're on a campus getting an education. And it's unfortunate that there are only 500 students on our campus that get an opportunity to be a part of what we do over here in competitive athletics. Ideally, you'd like to do the same thing for the other 23 or 24,000 kids on our campus, and maybe someday that's what it'll look like.
Our next question comes from Dennis Dodd of CBS. Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Mike, for doing this, by the way. But before the T-shirt and and saying, money had to run through Oklahoma, Mike's been no stranger to somewhat controversial comments in the past. Given what you just reported, the salary cut that he agreed to and everything, what sort of threshold is he at in your mind? What line can he not cross? Has that been defined for him in terms of actions or words in the future?
Well, I think it's just reconfirmed and emphasized in his mind that he needs to be very guarded in what he does publicly. Everywhere he goes, he's a representative of our university, and with that comes great responsibility. So whatever he wears, whatever he says, it's very important for him to represent us in a positive way, in a way that unites rather than divides. So this is just a reminder to him. I don't know how, and I don't know what else to say about it other than I think we both have an understanding that things are going to be different, and things are going to be a lot less controversial going forward.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Nathan Thompson of Fox.
Coach Holder, presumably these aren't issues that just happen kind of overnight or in the last couple months. Do you kind of feel there's any kind of, lack of oversight of the program that it took a football player to make a stance on Twitter for these issues to come to light?
Well, you ask a very good question, but I trust all of our coaches to do their job, and I've got a job to do of my own, and really micromanaging any of our coaches doesn't fit into my job description. So I trust them to do their job, and their number one responsibility is to nurture their players, develop a relationship with them, make a difference in their lives. And as I said earlier, send them out in the world to make a difference for society and all of mankind. So I guess you could criticize me for it, but I really don't have a good answer for you, and I'm probably not going to change going forward, because at my age, it's pretty hard to teach this old dog new tricks. I'm pretty set in my ways.
Our next question comes from Jacob Unruh, the Oklahoman.
Yeah, Mike, I'm kind of curious. I know it wasn't player related, but Alfred Williams' allegations that were 31 years ago that resurfaced. Did you guys look into that and reach out to him at all?
No, that was 31 years ago. That was resolved at that time, and I think everyone's moved forward since then.
Okay, thanks.
Our next question comes from Garen Emig of the Tulsa World.
Yeah, Mike, just real quick, following up, why don't you feel the need to follow up with Alfred Williams about that allegation?
Well, I mean, once you start doing that, where else are you going to go? I don't know. I don't know that there's necessarily a good answer for it. I just didn't feel the need to do that. I read the news account at the time. Mike Gundy addressed it, denied it, and moved on.
Are you concerned about, regardless of your actions toward that allegation and your feelings about it, are you concerned about ramifications from it in terms of not just the OSU football brand, but the brand of Oklahoma State University?
Well, I think the actions of Mike Gundy since he's been our head football coach for the last 15 years are more important than what happened 31 years ago. I believe that he's been a good representative for us within the team, and I think he stands for the right things. I like the core values of our football program that it's really based on. There's a reason that we've won a lot of football games, and I think that he's developed some high character kids. I love the way our players play the game. I love the way they represent our university. I like the discipline within the program. I like the fact that we play by the rules. That's really important to us. When Boone Pickens gave the $165 million a gift in 2005, that's all he asked in return was that we play by the rules. You don't need to cheat to win in sports or in life or in business. So there's nothing that's come out in Mike Gundy's 15 years as the leader of our football program, or nothing that came out in the conversations that I've had in the last 2 weeks with all the current and former players. And that's what I'm concerned about, and that's gratifying for me. And I think that says a lot about the leadership within our football program.
Thank you.
Next question comes from Jenny Carlson of the Oklahoman.
Hey, Mike. Fans, there was some criticism among fans of Chuba and other players for publicly criticizing their head coach. I know I heard from people critical, so I'm sure you did as well. What did you say to fans who were critical of the players for being so public, and what would you say to them now if they feel like those guys did something wrong, I guess?
Well, I think he should be commended. All the players should be commended for having enough courage to speak out. We need more of that in society, not less. That doesn't mean that the players are in control. There's a reason that the adults are in the leadership positions. There's a quote that I really love. It's, if youth knew, if age could. And that's really what coaching's all about. So at 71 years of age, obviously I don't have the physical skills to do what I could at 18 or 20. But hopefully I've learned some things along my life's journey that make me a lot smarter than I was at 18 to 20 years old. So I think coaching is a two-way street. It has to be a communication between the coach and the player. And when that a line of communication is there, it allows a relationship to be built. It builds trust, it builds respect, and ultimately it can lead to love. And when you have love, you can accomplish anything, motivate anybody to do just about anything. So I love Chuba speaking out. I think he admitted that probably he might have been better served to go have a private conversation with Coach Gundy. In the future, he probably will do that. But I would say in this case, it really resulted in nothing but positives for our players, our coaches, Coach Gundy, and I think it really sets up OSU football for, as I said earlier, I think the best is yet to come. So I think it's been a net positive for everyone, and I certainly have a lot of respect and admire the courage of Chuba being willing to speak out.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Max Olson of The Athletic.
Yeah, Mike, when Chuba Hubbard and his teammates called for change, what specific changes have they requested, just beyond improving their relationship with Coach Gundy?
Well, that's the primary one. And as I said, that crossed all racial lines. So quickly, we realized that's where we would focus our attention. And we've got what we were looking for, which is an understanding from our head coach that he can and will do better.
But no changes in terms of program policies or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I want us to stick to our core values. That culture that we talk about for Cowboy football, I think it's real. And I like the values and all the things that it stands for and represents. So you're always going to change. You're always going to evolve. Just like coaching's evolved, just like young people have evolved, just like society. So I'm not saying that everything's set in stone, but the primary motive, or not the motive, but the primary thing that I take away from this is what I've talked about related to Coach Gundy. And I'm really encouraged about what's going to happen.
Our next question comes from Kirk Bowles of the Austin American-Statesman.
Hey, Mike. I'd like to ask you a football question. What's the latest on positive tests at Oklahoma State? And what do you think the likelihood is we have college football in the fall and on time?
Well, I'm just going to take a guess because this is, constantly evolving. The last information I had was I think we've had 14 positive tests. I think 12 of those have been football players, 2 other athletes. I think we're on the baseball team, had positive tests. I'm really pleased with the task force we put together under the leadership of our Deputy AD, Chad Weiberg. We're blessed beyond comprehension for the relationship and the partnership we have with Oklahoma Health Sciences in Tulsa. They've really been great advisors and helped us execute our reentry plan to date. They facilitated all the testing. And as far as whether we're going to play football or soccer this fall, our intent is to gear up and get ready. And if we're not fortunate enough to get to play team sports this fall, then we'll get ready to play the winter sports. If for some reason we can't play those, we'll be ready to play in the spring. And if we don't get to play those, we'll be ready for the fall sports again in 2021. I'll assure you this, no matter what happens in the next 8, 10, 12 months, no matter what revenue looks like for our athletic department, we will honor every single scholarship. We will honor every scholarship from those seniors that had their spring seasons interrupted and want to come back. And, we understand what our priority is here, which is educating young people. And whatever scholarships we have promised for the 2021 season, we expect to do exactly the same thing again. So our mission can still be executed, even though you don't get to play games on Saturdays or Wednesdays, wherever they might be. We're still educating young people and developing the next generation of leaders. And that's still ongoing. We'll still train them. We'll still coach them up. We'll still strategize with them. We'll still try to give some structure to their daily life. And as I said, just be ready if and when we get the call and the opportunity. And I would say a blessing to be able to return to competitive athletics, because I know what when I was a youngster playing golf at Oklahoma State, I've lived and died for those matches and tournaments and opportunities to get out there and challenge myself. So that's probably more than you wanted to hear, and I'll shut up.
Well, Mike, one little quick follow-up. Do you think a spring football season for FBS could be feasible?
Absolutely. Anything's possible, Kurt.
Right.
It might not be preferred, but
Right.
Yeah, anything's possible. And I think our athletes, they just want to play. It doesn't matter if it's a soccer player, a football player, a baseball player. They came here to compete, and we want to give them a chance to win the conference championship, national championship, whatever it may be. Hopefully they're dreaming that big.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Scott Wright of the Oklahoman.
Mike, you mentioned that there were some other amendments to Coach Gundy's contract. Could you, beyond the $1 million cut, could you address any of those?
Yeah, we shortened the term. It's still a rollover, and we shortened the term from 5 to 4 years. It just makes sense under the circumstances. We changed the guarantee. We dropped it from 75% to 50%. Still a very, very significant number. And then we also dropped his buyout from $5 million, I believe, to $4 million. We made a few other changes, like we put a force majeure in there, which we need to add in all of our coaching contracts, but this will just be the first one, just to be able to deal with, I don't know, a pandemic, for example. I mean, we really anticipated something like that would totally disrupt the world of college athletics as we know it, so we added that. And we did some other housekeeping things that really are not of substance that, we hadn't changed his contract in quite a while. So I think I hit on the major points, and I want to reemphasize that every one of those was offered up by Mike Gundy.
Our next question comes from Bill Haston of the Tulsa World.
Coach, when you first saw the T-shirt photo, did you immediately expect such a big reaction and this to become such a big situation?
Well, no, I had no idea what that network was. I still don't. I just know it's controversial.
But within a couple of hours, had it started to mushroom to what it became, or was it more like the next day when you really felt the weight of it?
Well, I'm not on Twitter, and so I needed to have people inform me about it. And it was probably sometime Tuesday when I really, I realized that upset a lot of people. Let's find out why. And the thing that was upsetting for me wasn't the T-shirt; it was the reaction of our players, and just the reaction in general. And that set in motion our journey to seek the truth.
It feels like for several years, it has felt like the athletic department is one entity and football is another entity. Do you anticipate more of a partnership dynamic moving forward where, football feels more like part of the big picture with the athletic department?
I think you're right about that. Football plays a big part, but at the end of the day, I would like to think, at least in my own mind, that we have 500 athletes and they're all the same. They're all important. It doesn't matter how much revenue is produced for that particular sport. As I said, we're educating young people, and every single one of those 500 athletes has the potential to change the world. And we take our mission, our calling, very seriously here. And so I think it's maybe a better understanding of the real role that football plays in the department. Yeah, it generates a lot of revenue, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't be more important than any other sport. I know everybody points to the money. These days, it's all about the money. But I will say that in a lot of ways, the influx of money into college athletics, sure, it's been a blessing, but in a lot of ways, it's been a curse. And, you know, there's a reason that I think that the service academies, they exist in more of an austere environment. And I think a lot of the principles of leadership are best taught in that environment. And maybe one of the benefits of this global pandemic and the potential for massive shifts in the model for college athletics and shortage of revenue, maybe is a blessing in disguise, and it'll reorder a lot of priorities. We'll see.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Sam Kahn of ESPN.com.
Hey, Mike. I know you said a couple times that the criticism or the changes have been stated across racial lines, but I wanted to ask specifically about a couple former players who were black players who said that they were threatened that they would be sent back home. I think one former player tweeted and then deleted that, you know, he was called names like hood rat. And I'm curious if you were able to substantiate those claims, and if so, how were those addressed?
Well, I can't know with 100% certainty that I talked to the individuals that you're describing, but I reached out to everyone that had negative comments, and just about every one of them I had a conversation with them. And as we got into the conversation, that wasn't the main crux of their disappointment with Oklahoma State. You know, to a man, in spite of their angst over certain things, they still love the university, still love their time on the football program. They love their teammates, and had a lot of good things to say about it. But they mentioned that what we talked about with Mike Gundy, that was the number one premise. So I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, no, yeah, I guess just basically, do you feel confident that that black players will feel comfortable and that that Coach Gundy will, you know, treat them in a way that they can feel confident in?
Well, I think he always has, and I think I know he'll continue to do that. You know, but talk's cheap. Actions speak a whole lot louder than words, and we're going to be measured by more by how we act than what we say. So I'm concerned with our actions, and we have a commitment to do better. I think we do a good job here, maybe a great job, but it doesn't matter what level you're at. You can always do better. So we're trying to improve every day.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Barry Trammell. Barry, you may be on mute. Okay, moving on. Our next question comes from Max Olson of The Athletic.
Yeah, Mike, you talked about your journey that you and Chad went on. Could you just kind of tell us how many current and former players did you guys speak with, and kind of just tell us a little bit more about that process?
You know, I didn't keep track. I'm just going to guess probably 20, maybe more. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I probably should do it every year, and I should probably do it not just at a certain time of year, but just space it out. When the football players were, our weight room was in the building that my office is in. That was before we had the big expansion to Boone Pickens Stadium. I was in there every single morning with all the athletes, primarily football players, and I got to know them. And now that they go in the West End zone to work out, and I'm still in the same building, there's not that personal interaction and not that recognition. A lot of them probably don't know who I am. And so I need to change that back to the way it used to be. Kind of like Coach Gundy, maybe I've been a little bit disconnected from our athletes. I need to do a better job in that. So I've enjoyed these conversations so much, and I've learned so much that I'm probably going to just make it a regular part of what I do. And I want all the athletes to know that my door is always open, and they don't have to have a problem to talk about or something they want to talk to me about. They can come by anytime and just visit. I want to learn about them. And the more I know about them, I think the more effective leader I'll be for our department.
When you approached Coach Gundy about the findings, did he agree that the relationship wasn't where it should be? Did he give you any explanation for how it had reached this point?
Well, he already was aware of it. He had had a team meeting, and he heard it all. And Chad Weiberg and I sat back and listened to what the student athletes had to say. And so he had a preview of coming attractions from that first team meeting. And then he immediately started meeting with the players on an individual basis, just at the same time that we were meeting with them, not the same ones necessarily. And so by the time Chad and I had a pretty good idea of what we needed to work on, what needed to be changed. He was well aware of it and had already taken measures to do something about it. He's been absolutely 100% cooperative in the whole process. That's why I'm so confident that things are going to be better. This is going to be ultimately a good thing for everybody. Everybody that cares about, loves Oklahoma State football.
We've got about 10 minutes left in the call. Our next question comes from Barry Tremolo.
Yeah, sorry about that previous, Mike. Despite whatever's been going on in the past.
Whoop, I lost you, Barry.
Now you got me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
Start all over.
Okay, sorry. Despite whatever's happened in the past, as you've said, you guys have been successful at a high level on the football field. So the chances for continued success seem really high. Are you concerned, though, that the last couple of months could affect recruiting, and not the guys that are on campus, but the guys that you want to be on campus?
Well, I'm always concerned about recruiting. And when I was coaching, I always wanted to do a better job recruiting because that really established the ceiling for your potential for on-the-field success. So, yeah, I'm concerned about it. But I think our number one not adversary, but ally in this process is going to be our current players. And, what happens starting today going forward as we go through the course of this season, and what kind of feedback the potential recruits get from our current players about what it's like to play football at Oklahoma State. That's what's important.
We're down to our last few questions. Our next question comes from Nathan Thompson of Fox 23. Nathan, you may be on mute.
There you go. You got me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that has problems with technology.
Coach, there was some criticism online about you and Chad Weiberg being in charge of this review that could possibly have racial issues in it. And Coach Boynton stepped up and defended you guys and said he was involved in the review and that many Black people were consulted in this review. Can you kind of address that, and how were they involved, and how did you kind of get them involved?
Well, the majority of the players that we talked to were African-American. That's how they were involved. And, it's always nice to hear nice things from someone that you have respect for and admiration for. And I'd say in the case of Mike Boynton, I can't say enough good things about his leadership qualities. So it's nice for him to say that. That means a lot to me. But the most important thing in the whole process were for Chad Weiberg and I to constantly remind ourselves to keep our personal opinions and prejudices and whatever there might be out of this process, and seek the truth. And I'm confident that we got there. I feel good about the way we went about it. And, there's a segment of society that's going to criticize what you do, no matter what you do. I just think that comes along with being in a leadership position. I'm aware of that. I understand it. I'm not going to let it determine how we do our job. This isn't a popularity contest. It's like being a coach isn't a popularity contest. So you've got to stay true to your values and believe in what's important, and make sure that guides your decision-making process, and don't let things that really are counterproductive cloud the issues and cloud your decision-making ability.
So as far as Coach Boynton was concerned with this review, can you say specifically how he was involved? Did you just get his take, or was there more to that?
No, he's just a friend. He's always there to talk to me. And when I had questions or I wanted to get at someone else's opinion on what was going on, he's someone that I confided in. I trust him, and I value his opinion.
Our next question comes from.
I might also add that his experience as a person is different than mine. I mean, as I said earlier, I'm 71-year-old white man. I have no comprehension of what it's like to be Black or African American in America today. None. I have empathy for the African Americans, especially those that are athletes that are under my charge. And so it's important for me to seek out someone that can give me a better perspective on it. You know, that every one of us has bias, implied bias. Nothing we can do about it. It's just a product of how we were raised. So every day you have to remind yourself to try to be objective and only judge people based on what you see in front of you, not by the color of their skin, but by the person standing in front of you. Not the fact that it's a female or a male. Everybody deserves a fair shot in this world today. And that's what I love about athletics. It's a meritocracy. You earn what you get. You eat what you kill. Maybe that's not a good analogy right there, but and so, yeah, I'm interested in Mike Boynton's perspective as an African American and someone that I respect because of who he is, what he represents, and what he stands for every single day. We need more people like him.
Our next question comes from Jacob Unruh, the Oklahoman.
Yeah, Mike, kind of along the lines of basketball still too. Can you give us an update on the appeal to the NCAA and where that stands?
Hey, Jacob, I'm not hearing you very well. Can you repeat that?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's a lot better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Along the lines of basketball too, can you give us an update on where the NCAA appeal stands and where things are going with that?
Well, we won the first round when the majority of our roster stayed with us. So kudos to Coach Boynton and his staff and for the relationships that he established with those young men. That's really gratifying. And then, we have filed our appeal, and then we're in our 30-day period to put together the justification for our appeal. That's ongoing. We're getting the best people on our side, and we feel like that we've been wronged, and we want that appeals committee to agree with us. So we're going to make a great argument.
Do you have any more confidence in the appeal than you had a few weeks ago when you spoke with us?
Well, yeah, I do, absolutely, and I'm really confident in the team that we're assembling to represent us, and I think the most important thing is just stand up and fight for our coaches and our players. That's important. That's probably more important than the final resolution.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, so we've got about 40 minutes. Coach, want to be respectful of your time and just give you the last word here. Any final thoughts, final comments for the group?
Well, I said it earlier, but I think it bears repeating. As uncomfortable as this has been, I think it's been a journey worth taking. It's been gratifying in a lot of ways, and I think it's going to make us all better today and going forward. And I'm anxious to see what happens in the future. I think it's going to be a whole lot better than what we see in the rearview mirror. And I appreciate everybody's time today. And anyway, I think that's about it.